I sat at my desk on a Tuesday evening, balancing our accounts like I'd done for 30 years. The numbers weren't adding up. Our joint savings account showed $40,000 missing. My hands started shaking as I scrolled through the transaction history. Large withdrawals over the past 6 months. Always on Thursdays. I called Brandon immediately. Honey, did you withdraw money from savings? There's $40,000 missing. His voice came through casual, dismissive. Oh, that's just a business investment. Don't worry about it. Something in his tone felt wrong. Too smooth. Too practiced. What kind of investment takes $40,000 without discussing it? I pressed. Clara, I handle the business side. You handle the home finances. Trust me on this. He hung up before I could respond. I stared at my computer screen, that sick feeling growing in my stomach. 30 years of marriage, and he'd never hidden financial decisions before. I clicked on the most recent transaction, tracing where the money went. The receiving account belonged to the Riverside Luxury Hotel. The next morning, I drove to the Riverside Hotel with my heart pounding. It was the kind of place we'd never stayed at. Too expensive for our modest lifestyle. I parked across the street, hands gripping the steering wheel, telling myself I was being paranoid. Then I saw him. Brandon walked out of the hotel lobby, laughing with a woman I'd never seen before. She was younger, maybe 35. Wearing an expensive dress I recognized from the boutiques downtown. He held her hand. My husband of 30 years held another woman's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. I watched him pull out his wallet at the valet stand, handing over our credit card. The one linked to our joint account. The valet smiled like he recognized them. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to storm across the street, confront them, scream. But something held me back. Instead, I took photos. Documented everything. Then I walked inside after they drove away. The hotel receptionist smiled professionally as I approached. Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you? I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. I'm wondering if my husband has a reservation here. Brandon Wesley. Her smile brightened with recognition. Oh, Mr. Wesley. Yes, he's one of our regular guests. Are you joining him today? Regular guest. The words hit like a physical blow. No, I'm just confirming some details. Thank you. I walked out before she could see me fall apart. That night, I confronted him at dinner. I know about the hotel, Brandon. I saw you with her. His face went cold. You followed me? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? You're having an affair. He laughed, actually laughed. You're paranoid, Clara. She's a business associate. The hotel meetings are perfectly normal. I felt tears building. I'm not stupid. You're acting crazy. This is why I can't talk to you about work anymore. His gaslighting was so smooth, so practiced, that I started doubting my own eyes. I apologized through tears that night, hating myself for it. Brandon accepted my apology with a magnanimous smile, like he was forgiving a child's tantrum. After he fell asleep, I crept to his study. Found his second phone hidden in his desk drawer. My hands trembled as I unlocked it using his birthday, the code he used for everything. The messages loaded slowly, each one destroying me further. Can't wait for our trip to Greece, baby. The suite was perfect last night. You make me feel alive again. A year. They'd been together for over a year. I took screenshots of everything, my tears blurring the screen. Sent them to my email address, then carefully put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. In our bedroom, Brandon snored peacefully while my entire world crumbled. 30 years of marriage. 3 children raised together. A life built from nothing. All of it reduced to lies and hotel receipts. I couldn't sleep, so I went through our financial records more carefully. What I found made me physically sick. Brandon had opened a private offshore account 8 months ago. He'd been systematically transferring our savings, $5,000 to $10,000 at a time. The offshore account now held nearly $70,000. Money we'd saved for retirement. Money from my mother's inheritance. Money I'd earned working as a financial planner for 3 decades. All being funneled into an account I had no access to. The most recent transfer was dated yesterday. $10,000. Moved while I was at work. I printed everything. Bank statements, transaction histories, account opening documents with forged signatures. My professional training kicked in, overriding my heartbreak. This wasn't just infidelity. This was financial fraud. I placed all the documents in a folder, hiding it in my office safe. Then I went back to bed beside my husband, the stranger, and pretended to sleep. By Friday morning, I was falling apart. I called my sister Diane from my car, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. He's stealing from me. From us. Everything we built. Diane listened quietly, then said, "Come over. Now." In her kitchen, I showed her everything. The photos, the messages, the financial records. She sat silent for a long time, processing. "You need to leave him, Clara." "I can't. The house is in both our names. Our finances are completely joint. If I leave, I lose everything." "Then you can't fight him head-on," Diane said slowly. "He's planned this too carefully. You need to outsmart him, not confront him." Something in her words sparked clarity through my grief. Brandon thought I was naive, trusting, easy to manipulate. He'd been counting on that. Maybe it was time to use his assumptions against him. "What do I do?" I whispered. Diane squeezed my hand. "Document everything. Act normal. And find a really good lawyer." I went home and became an actress. Smiled at Brandon over breakfast. Asked about his day. Kissed him goodbye when he left for work meetings. Inside I was dying. But I kept my face calm, my voice steady. Meanwhile, I documented everything. Photographed his credit card statements. Recorded the dates and times he claimed to be working late. Saved every transaction from our joint accounts. Kept copies of everything in multiple locations. Cloud storage, external drives, my sister's house. 2 weeks later, I booked a legal consultation under my maiden name. Used cash to pay for it. Met the lawyer, Mr. Phillips, in his downtown office. He was older, experienced, with kind eyes that had seen countless betrayals. "Mrs. Wesley, I need you to understand something," he said after reviewing my documents. "We can't take revenge. But we can take justice." He explained how to freeze accounts legally with evidence of financial misconduct and asset concealment. "What do I need?" I asked. "More proof that these funds weren't for joint expenses." I found the other woman's social media that night. Her name was Veronica Chase. Her Instagram was public, filled with photos of designer bags, exotic vacations, expensive restaurants. Every post dripped with luxury I knew Brandon couldn't afford on his salary. Unless he was using our money. I scrolled through months of posts, matching dates to our bank withdrawals. The timeline was perfect. Every time money disappeared from our account, Veronica posted something new and expensive. A Gucci handbag here. A weekend in Miami there. Dinners at restaurants that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. Then I found it. A photo from 3 weeks ago. Veronica holding shopping bags from Bergdorf Goodman. Caption reading, "Best boyfriend ever." In the background, barely visible, was a receipt. I zoomed in, screenshot, enhanced the image. The receipt showed a $5,000 purchase. Paid with a card ending in 3847. Our joint credit card. My card. I had her now. I created a fake social media account under a generic name. Sent Veronica a message, pretending to be someone seeking investment advice from successful women. She responded immediately, clearly loving the attention. We messaged back and forth for a week. She bragged about her lifestyle, how her boyfriend took care of everything. "He's so generous," she wrote. "Pays for my apartment, my car, everything. Says I deserve the best." I asked carefully about investments, money management. That's when she made her mistake. Sent me a photo of a recent wire transfer as proof of her boyfriend's success. The transfer showed $20,000 from an account I recognized immediately. Brandon's offshore account. The account number was visible in the screenshot. I saved it, hands shaking with rage and satisfaction. She just handed me exactly what I needed. Evidence linking Brandon's secret account directly to his mistress. My lawyer would love this. I managed 2 more weeks of pretending before I broke. Brandon came home at midnight on a Thursday, smelling like expensive perfume. Long meeting, he said casually, loosening his tie. Something inside me snapped. I threw a coffee mug against the wall, watching it shatter. Where were you? He looked shocked. I'd never yelled at him, not in 30 years. Working. Jesus, Clara, what's wrong with you? You're a liar. I screamed. I know everything. The hotel, the woman, the money you're stealing. He stepped toward me, face hardening. You're crazy. You're having some kind of breakdown. I'm not crazy. But even as I screamed it, doubt crept in. He was so calm, so certain, making me question reality again. He shook his head, grabbed his keys. I can't deal with this right now. You need help, Clara. The door slammed. I stood in our kitchen surrounded by broken ceramic, finally understanding. He'd never admit the truth. Never apologize. This was who he was. I called Mr. Phillips from the floor where I'd collapsed. It's time, I whispered. Mr. Phillips filed an emergency motion Monday morning. Requested an immediate freeze on all joint accounts and any accounts connected to Brandon under suspicion of asset concealment and fraudulent transfer. The hearing was scheduled for Wednesday. Brandon had no idea what was coming. Tuesday night, he tried to withdraw $10,000 cash from our savings account. The machine declined his card. He tried again. Declined. He called the bank, and I listened from the kitchen as his voice grew louder, more panicked. What do you mean the account is frozen? On whose authority? I heard him shouting about legal action, demanding to speak to managers. Finally, he stormed into the kitchen where I sat calmly drinking tea. What did you do? His face was red with fury. I looked up, keeping my voice steady. I secured what's mine. You froze our accounts? Our money. Your money. I raised an eyebrow. The $70,000 you transferred to an offshore account? That money. His face went white. You have no right. I have every right. See you in court, Brandon. Fine. I want a divorce. I smiled coldly. Perfect. Let's make it official. My phone rang at 6 the next morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Wesley? A woman's voice. Shaking. This is Veronica. Veronica Chase. I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. Why are you calling me? I need to apologize. I didn't know. He told me he was divorced, that you'd moved on years ago. I never would have. She was crying. I waited, letting her talk. He owes me money. $20,000 he promised to pay back. Now his accounts are frozen and he's saying I'll never see it. Something cold settled in my chest. He told you he'd pay you back? For a business investment we were supposed to do together. He said he just needed to move some funds around. Brandon had scammed both of us. Used our marriage money on his mistress, then borrowed from his mistress promising returns that didn't exist. I almost laughed at the audacity. Veronica, I need you to do something for me. Silence on the other end. Will you testify? Tell the truth about everything? She hesitated only a moment. Yes. He deserves it. We met at a coffee shop downtown that Thursday. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. Pictured his mistress as some heartless villain. Instead, Veronica looked small and scared, makeup covering what looked like sleepless nights. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. I feel like such a fool. Join the club. I meant it without bitterness. We were both his victims. She showed me everything. Text messages where Brandon promised marriage, claimed I was abusive and controlling, painted himself as the suffering husband. Voice notes where he talked about his plans, his dreams, how he was building a future for us. Then she played one that made my blood freeze. I'm draining my wife's account before she wakes up. She has no idea about the offshore fund. By the time she figures it out, we'll be in Greece and she can't touch us. His voice. His words. Proof of premeditated theft. Veronica looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I recorded it because I thought it was romantic. Now I just feel sick. Mr. Phillips reviewed the voice memo with barely contained excitement. This is your smoking gun, Clara. He's confessing to financial fraud in his own words. We prepared for court with renewed energy. Submitted all the evidence. The photos, the messages, the bank records, Veronica's testimony, the voice recording. Everything. Then Brandon's lawyer served me with papers. He was claiming I'd hidden assets too, trying to take half of my mother's inheritance. The inheritance that came to me alone after she died. Money he'd already stolen most of. I showed the papers to Mr. Phillips. He actually smiled. He's desperate. These documents are clearly falsified. He's making our case stronger. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In that time, Brandon tried everything. Called me crying, begging for forgiveness. Sent flowers with notes saying he loved me. Threatened me through lawyers. But I stayed silent, following Mr. Phillips's advice. Let him dig his own grave. The judge ordered a full forensic audit of all Brandon's finances. Every account, every transaction, everything laid bare. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Brandon sat across the aisle with his lawyer, refusing to look at me. The forensic accountant testified first, walking through every hidden account, every fraudulent transfer, every luxury purchase made with our joint funds. The judge's expression grew darker with each revelation. Brandon had forged my signature on the offshore account. Had falsified documents claiming the money was his inheritance. Had systematically stolen nearly $90,000 over 18 months. The courtroom gasped when they showed the hotel bills. $50,000 spent on luxury suites, spa treatments, expensive dinners. All charged to our joint credit card. Then Veronica took the stand. She looked directly at Brandon as she testified, her voice steady. Confirmed his lies about being divorced. Described how he'd borrowed money from her promising business returns. Explained the wire transfers, the gifts, everything. Brandon's lawyer tried to discredit her, paint her as a bitter ex-girlfriend. But Veronica stayed calm, professional. The judge stopped the lawyer mid-sentence. I've heard enough. Let's move to asset division. The judge reviewed everything while we sat in silence. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Wesley, your financial misconduct is appalling. You systematically defrauded your wife while maintaining a fraudulent relationship based on stolen funds. Brandon started to speak. The judge held up her hand. I'm not finished. You forged documents, concealed assets, and committed what appears to be both civil and criminal fraud. She turned to me. Mrs. Wesley, I'm granting you full ownership of the marital home, both vehicles, and 80% of all remaining joint assets. Mr. Wesley will be responsible for all legal fees and court costs. Brandon stood up, shouting. That's not fair. Half of that money is mine. Sit down, the judge said coldly. Or I'll hold you in contempt. You're lucky I'm not referring this to criminal prosecution. She signed the order. Just like that, 30 years of marriage ended. But this time, justice came with it. Outside the courtroom, my phone buzzed. Text from Veronica. He's calling me non-stop. Begging for help. What should I do? I met Veronica for coffee again, this time as unexpected allies. He wants you to give him money, I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded miserably. Says he needs $20,000 to pay lawyers, to survive until he gets back on his feet. Promised he'd pay me back double. He's never paying anyone back, I said flatly. He has no money left. I know. But part of me still. She trailed off. I understood. The heart doesn't stop caring just because someone deserves it. Veronica, he owes you $20,000, right? Yes, but I'll never see it. What if I told you there's a legal way to get it? Her eyes widened. I explained what Mr. Phillips had discovered. Because Brandon had borrowed money from Veronica under false pretenses, promising business returns that didn't exist, it qualified as fraud. We could file a claim to collect the debt from his remaining assets. But he has nothing left, Veronica said. He has his retirement account. The one he thought was protected. I smiled grimly. We can legally drain it. Together. Mr. Phillips filed the paperwork Thursday morning. A claim against Brandon's retirement fund under fraudulent debt collection. Because Veronica had documentation of the loan and proof Brandon had lied about his financial status to obtain it, the judge approved our request. We went to the bank together, Veronica and I, an unlikely team. The banker processed the transfer, moving $20,000 from Brandon's retirement account into a restitution fund. From there it would be split. Half to Veronica as repayment. Half to me as additional damages. Brandon's retirement fund, his last protected asset, drained legally and completely. I watched the confirmation print out, feeling nothing. No victory. No satisfaction. Just tired relief that it was finally over. Thank you, Veronica said quietly as we left the bank. For what? For not hating me. For helping me when you had every reason not to. I looked at her, this woman who'd been part of destroying my marriage. But she'd been lied to just like me. He made us both victims, I said. Might as well be survivors together. Brandon's world collapsed fast after that. His business partners dropped him when word spread about the fraud charges. His reputation in our small community was destroyed. People crossed the street to avoid him. The story made local news. Local businessman accused of defrauding wife and mistress. He lost his job 2 weeks after the judgment. His new apartment, the cheap one he'd moved to after I got the house, filed eviction notices. I heard through mutual friends that he was living in his car. Part of me felt guilty. 30 years together, and it ended with him homeless and broke. But then I remembered. The lies. The theft. The gaslighting. The way he'd planned to abandon me penniless in Greece while he started over with my money. He'd destroyed himself. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences. A journalist called asking for an interview. Mrs. Wesley, would you like to comment on your husband's situation? No, I said simply. I've already said enough. I hung up and blocked the number. This chapter of my life was closed. I renovated the house that spring. Turned Brandon's office into my reading room. Painted the bedroom walls a color I actually liked. Replaced furniture that held too many memories. The house slowly became mine instead of ours. Diane came over to help me plant a garden. You look different, she said, studying my face. Lighter. I did feel lighter. Like I'd been carrying weight I didn't know existed until it lifted. Veronica and I stayed in touch, not friends exactly, but cordial. She'd moved to another state, started over. Sometimes we texted about nothing important. The weather. Good books. How strange life turned out. She was seeing a therapist, working through her own betrayal and guilt. I was proud of her for that. One Tuesday afternoon, my mailbox contained a letter. Brandon's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. Inside, one page. You destroyed me. Was it worth it? I read it twice. Then got out my nice stationery. Wrote my reply carefully. Mailed it that evening. My letter to Brandon was short. You destroyed yourself. I just kept the receipts. I didn't expect a response. Didn't want one. That night, I walked through my garden as the sun set, everything golden and peaceful. Thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. Trusting. Naive. Married to a man I thought I knew. That woman was gone. The new version of me was harder, more cautious. But also stronger. More certain of my worth. I'd survived something I thought would destroy me. Learned I could stand alone. Reclaimed not just my money, but my dignity. The revenge had been necessary. Not for cruelty but for justice. To prove that stealing, lying, and manipulating have consequences. That women aren't just victims waiting to be saved or destroyed. We're survivors who know how to fight back. My phone buzzed. Text from Diane. Proud of you, sis. I smiled, typing back. Proud of me too. The garden smelled like jasmine. The house was quiet but not lonely. And for the first time in 30 years, everything I had was completely, legally, undeniably mine. 3 months later, I testified at Brandon's bankruptcy hearing. His lawyers had filed for protection, claiming he couldn't pay his debts. But I had evidence he'd hidden more assets, trying to protect them from creditors. The judge was the same one from our divorce. She remembered the case well. Mr. Wesley, you're before me again under suspicious circumstances. Brandon looked terrible. Thinner. Older. Defeated. His lawyer argued he was destitute, deserving of debt forgiveness. Then I presented the evidence. Another offshore account he'd opened using his mother's name. $30,000 tucked away. Thought safely hidden. Brandon's face went white when the bank statements appeared on screen. Where did you get those? his lawyer demanded. Legal discovery, Mr. Phillips replied smoothly. Mrs. Wesley has been very thorough in protecting her interests. The judge denied the bankruptcy protection, ordered the hidden account seized to pay Brandon's debts. As we left the courthouse, Brandon grabbed my arm in the parking garage. Why won't you let this go? Haven't you hurt me enough? I pulled my arm free, looking at Brandon clearly, really seeing him for the first time in maybe years. You think I hurt you? My voice was calm. You stole $90,000 from our marriage. You lied for 18 months. You gaslit me, made me think I was crazy for questioning you. I made mistakes. You made choices, Brandon. Deliberate, calculated choices. You hurt me enough for both of us. He looked like he wanted to argue, then deflated. What happens now? You face your consequences. I've moved on. With her? With Veronica? He actually sounded jealous. I laughed, not kindly. No. With myself. With the life I'm building alone. The one that doesn't include you. I walked away, and this time he didn't follow. Drove home to my quiet house, my peaceful garden, my life that belonged entirely to me. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at an expensive restaurant. Used my own credit card, my own money, earned and kept honestly. Ordered wine, dessert, didn't check the prices. This was freedom. Not revenge anymore. Just living well. A year after the divorce finalized, I received an invitation. Veronica was getting married. To someone honest this time, she'd written in the note. I wanted you to know. You helped me learn what I deserved. Thank you. I sent a gift. Didn't attend the wedding, but wished her well sincerely. Some connections aren't meant to last, just to teach. She taught me that even people who hurt us can still be victims too. That grace doesn't mean forgiveness, but it means understanding. My business was thriving. Turns out, a financial planner who'd personally survived financial fraud was incredibly appealing to clients. I'd turned my worst experience into my greatest qualification. Started a blog about financial independence, protecting yourself legally, recognizing warning signs of financial abuse. It went viral. Women wrote me from everywhere, sharing their stories, asking for advice. I helped where I could. Brandon faded into my rearview mirror. Last I heard, he'd moved out of state, started over somewhere nobody knew his story. I hoped he'd learn something. Doubted it, but hoped. As for me, I was learning to live again. Not just survive but actually live. I turned 58 last month. Celebrated with Diane, some friends from work, my grown children who'd finally forgiven their father but understood why I couldn't. We ate cake in my garden, surrounded by flowers I'd planted myself. The house that had been ours was now completely mine. Every room reflected my taste, my choices, my peace. My youngest daughter asked me once if I regretted how everything ended. The public battle, the money fight, the revenge. I thought about it honestly before answering. I regret the marriage ending in lies. But I don't regret protecting myself. Your father made choices that destroyed our family. I made choices that saved my future. She hugged me tight. You taught us to stand up for ourselves. That's worth everything. Now I sit on my porch in the evenings, watching the sunset paint my garden gold. Think about the woman I was, the woman I became. Both versions matter. One taught me to love. The other taught me to survive. Brandon thought destroying me would be easy. Thought I was weak, trusting, breakable. He was wrong. I was strong enough to document everything. Smart enough to outmaneuver him. Brave enough to stand up in court and take back what he'd stolen. The receipts saved me. But I saved myself first. That's the real victory. Not the money, not the house, not the revenge. Just knowing that when everything fell apart, I had the strength to rebuild. On my terms. That's how this story ends. Not with hatred but with peace. Not with bitterness, but with grace. Not with a man's betrayal defining me, but with my own strength setting me free. I kept the receipts. But more importantly, I kept myself.